We parish priests tend to be independent types. And there's probably some good reason for that. You know, we never marry. We take a promise of celibacy. We live generally alone in rectories. But all of that changes in the summertime because people like Matt Duclos and the other seminarians come from all of their seminaries to be in parishes for the summer. And so a lot of those independent parish priests have to get used to a new rhythm of life for a little while. One of my priest friends doesn't just have one seminarian, he has two. And so I was asking him what it was like this summer, and he said, it's stressful. He said, I'm always trying to figure out what to feed them. He said, breakfast is over, and then I got to think about lunch. And then if it's midway through the afternoon and I don't have a dinner plan, I've got to get cracking. And of course, I feel his pain. But it made me laugh because I have a friend who has 8 children of various ages. And because some of them have grandchildren and then the friends are coming over, they rarely have a meal with fewer than 20 people at the table. So she might roll her eyes at priests like us. But what can I say? It got me thinking about God. God has this issue. 7 billion of us every day saying, give us this day our daily bread. And we hear in the readings that that's how it's always been. Humans have always needed God for sustenance. We cannot handle it on our own. That was obvious during the wandering in the desert when the manna came, but it's just as true now. Whether we buy our food in the store or it falls from heaven, we need God to provide our food for us. Now, you might be saying, not me. I'm a gardener. I grow my own food. But you know well that that's not how it works. Because no one can have a garden without seeds and soil. And we can't make those. So it ultimately all comes from God. So every time we experience hunger, that's an opportunity to remember that we have a direct connection to God all the time. Because we depend on God for everything. And most of us are comfortable with that thought. It's kind of beautiful. But Jesus takes it a step too far. The gospel today starts off okay. I am the living bread. And we say, that sounds nice. But then he says, so I want you to eat my flesh. I want you to drink my blood. So the crowds were repulsed. But they didn't want to reject him, so they asked him to clarify. Can you say, obviously we're mishearing you, they thought. But then what does he say? He said in the gospel that we just heard, 6 times he says, eat my flesh. A word that we do not want associated with eating at all. And 4 times he says, drink my blood. It's startling. It's shocking. It's gross. It is meant to be intense. And he says to them, don't depend on the food for your bodies alone, because all that manna that God gave you, that put coal in the furnace, but it didn't last. You always needed more. The bread that I want to give you, it doesn't run out. You never need more. Just a little bit can change your life. This is the Feast of Corpus Christi, where every year we have to wrestle with this. We don't get let off easy. We have to face it. What exactly do we think this bread and wine is? Have you ever noticed what you call communion or the way you talk about it? Catholics often have conversations about communion, especially when we're with other Catholics. We like talking about what we do or what our preferences are. That kind of conversation often happens. And sometimes, have you ever heard yourself or someone else say, I go up every week and take the bread, but I'm afraid to take the wine. I'm afraid of germs. Do you ever catch yourself saying that? I don't take the wine like it's something we have on a patio. I don't take the wine. How different does it sound if we say, I don't take the blood? Because if we say blood, then all of a sudden germs become a little bit silly, right? If you're going to take a sip of blood, germs are the least of your worries. So, do we say wine because we want to shield ourselves? Is that what happens? We don't want to face how raw it is, so we turn it into something a little more palatable. We make it a symbol. Yeah, it's wine. So if I don't want it, it's not a big deal. I don't drink wine. But when we remember that it's the body and the blood, suddenly we have a new focus. And maybe that's why Corpus Christi has to come around every year, to keep us from just staying on the level of a symbol. This week we had new Eucharistic minister training at St. Mary's in Coxsackie. We have it every year around this time, and it's for today. It's to get ready for the feast of Corpus Christi, because we want to have them all ready for this great feast day. And I was talking to some of the people who were trained this week, and one of them said to me, "I am so honored to do this. I just can't believe it. I have goosebumps." She said, "But boy, am I terrified for that first day." And I said, "What are you afraid of?" She said, "What if I spill the cup?" Have you ever been in a scene like that? Have you or the priest ever dropped the host? Have you ever had that moment? And what happens when it happens? People go, because Jesus is on the floor. Isn't that amazing? It's almost like we need to drop him to realize who it is. One time when I was at my parish in Boston, a woman was going to her communion station with the cup, and she missed a step. It happens. I'm sure it's happened here at least once in history. And as she fell, the blood of Christ went all over the carpet and all over the floor around her. And do you know what happens when something like that happens? It's like a crime scene, honestly. We cordon it off, we keep everybody away, we take purificators, which are those liturgical napkins, and we place them all over the top, and we say, all right, stay away everybody. Now, if it were wine, we would say, get the steam cleaner before it sets. But we don't do that. What happens when the blood of Christ spills? All of a sudden we wake up and remember what this is. This is not wine. This is not bread. This is more than that. So that woman and I together all of a sudden realized, oh my goodness, even a mistake with the body or the blood of Christ could be a way to bring God glory, because it might be the avenue God uses to wake us up, to realize what it is. So, here we go again. In a few minutes, unbelievably, we're going to get an opportunity to be here for a miracle that we know is going to happen. That we're going to take bread that we bought from a distributor and wine that a local liquor store donates to the church, and we're going to consecrate it, and it will become the body and blood of Christ. And then all of you will be invited to come forward and take a swallow of his flesh and a sip of his blood. And that's overwhelming to hear, but it's meant to be. It's meant to be intense. And we don't have to understand it because it's not for our minds. And we don't have to feel comfortable with it because it's not for our hearts or our emotions. And you're certainly not going to receive enough to feel full afterwards. It's not for our bodies. It's not going to fill your belly. Because God gives us our daily bread every day for our bellies. This food is for our souls.